Enroll your child for the manifested e-learning platform and see their grades grow tremendously. These videos can be downloaded to a laptop for offline viewing or viewed from a smartphone in a cost-friendly format.
Hey learners, did you know that pronouns have different uses, play different roles in a sentence, just as the noun does? In this lesson, I want us to look at how pronouns can actually be used in a sentence to replace nouns that are used as objects. Therefore, we will be talking about objective case pronouns. Welcome. So in the previous lesson, we talked about how pronouns can be used to replace the nouns that are used as subjects in sentences, and we said the pronouns that are used in that way are referred to as the subjective case pronouns. I also gave an assignment which I hope you have attempted, and I also asked you to do a lot of revision so that you may be able to get how that concept work, and make sure that you understand, you go back and look at the structure of the simple sentence in English. When you look at the structure of the simple sentence in English, you will understand which part of the sentence is the subject, which part of the sentence is the verb, and which part of the sentence is actually the object. So we'll do a brief recap of what exactly we said in regards to the subjective pronouns. Just as the name suggests, subjective case pronouns. We said those pronouns are the ones that are used to replace the nouns that are used as subjects in sentences. Remember, as much as nouns are naming words, they can be used to play different roles in a sentence. For one, a noun can be used as a subject in a sentence, and it can also be used as an object in a sentence. Sometimes, when you feel like you do not want to do a lot of repeating, you always replace the noun with a pronoun, of course, to make your speech or your writing sound more natural. That is why you make use of pronouns. So depending on the noun that is replaced in a pronoun, that is what dictates whether the pronoun is subjective or objective. I gave examples of subjective pronouns. We talked about I. We also talked about they. We talked about she, he. All those were examples of subjective pronouns. I hope everything was clear. So now we'll move to the objective case pronouns. As I've already mentioned, these are the pronouns that are used as objects in a sentence. Then now, this brings us to the question of what is an object in a sentence. Therefore, an object, unlike, remember what we said regarding the subject. We said that the subject is always the doer of the action that is described by a verb in a sentence. Let me give an example of a sentence so that you can be able to see the difference between the object and the subject. So let's look at this sentence. Ali kicked the ball. Look at that sentence. Ali is the subject in this sentence. He's the one that performs the action. When we talk about the doer of an action, we mean that part of the sentence that does the action that is described by the verb. So here, it is Ali that actually does the kicking. He's the one that kicks the ball. So automatically, Ali becomes the subject of our sentence, of course, because he is the doer of the action. Or in other words, you can also say that he's the performer. Then we move on to the next part. Of course, kicked, this is the verb. And then the ball, this one is a noun phrase, but it is a noun phrase that is playing the role of an object in this sentence. Remember, we've said subjects are doer, is the doer of actions in sentences, and then the objects, our object here is actually a noun phrase. You talked about noun phrases in Form 1, so I'm expecting that you understand what a noun phrase is. I'll not go back to that. So the object here is a noun phrase, and again, it is the receiver. It is the receiver of the action that is performed by the verb here. So Ali kicked the ball. What did Ali kick? The ball. The ball is the one that receives this action. It is the one that gets kicked. And then Ali is the one that kicks this ball. So if we were to replace the ball here with a pronoun, this sentence can simply change, and then we have a sentence like Ali kicked it. Ali, of course, remains the subject in our sentence. He is still the doer of the action, that is, he is still the one that kicks the ball. Kicked here becomes the verb, and then it is a pronoun, but it stands in the place of a noun that is supposed to be the object in our sentence. Therefore, this is a pronoun, but then we refer to this as being an objective pronoun because it stands in place of the noun that is used as a pronoun in this sentence. Therefore, we could now say that the object is the receiver of the action described by the verb. This section is very simple. I actually enjoy teaching these types of pronouns because identifying a subject and an object in a sentence is not difficult. If you understand that the subject is the doer and that the object is always the receiver of an action, you'll not have a problem with also identifying pronouns that are used either as subjects or that are also used as objects. And to give an example of another sentence here, just examples of more sentences, if we say, Nekesa loves Wafula, that's sentence 1. Then we could also have another sentence where we say, the teacher hits, let me use another word, the teacher marked the books. And then we could have another sentence. Andove is playing. Let's look at those sentences and then try to replace the different nouns that we have in those sentences with pronouns where necessary. Let's look at our first sentence. So here automatically, Nekesa is the one that loves Wafula. So she's the performer of the action that is described by the verb, which is love. Automatically, Nekesa becomes our subject. Loves, of course, is a verb. And then Wafula is the receiver. He's the one that receives love from Nekesa. Therefore, Wafula here is actually our object. We could replace this sentence and then have a sentence that says, she loves him. So now we have replaced Nekesa, which is the subject, with a pronoun she. We have replaced Wafula, who is actually the object in our sentence, with the pronoun him. Him and she. In our previous discussion where we talked about subjective pronouns, remember that she was in the category of examples of subjective pronouns. It can only be used to replace those nouns in sentences that are actually used as subjects. Then now we have an example of an objective pronoun, which is actually him. So Wafula, which is the object in the sentence, is actually replaced by an objective pronoun, which is him. Then let's go to this sentence here. The teacher marked the books. We have the teacher being the subject in that sentence. Then we have marked being the verb. And then the books, of course, are the receiver of the action here, which is marking. They're the ones that were marked. So the books in this case are actually the object. If we try to replace this, the teacher here with a pronoun, we could have, because we do not know the gender of the teacher and we do not want to be gender biased, we could actually make use of either of the two pronouns that we use to indicate gender. He or she marked the books. So in this case, he or she are actually examples of subjective pronouns. If we also look at this one, Andove is playing. In this case, Andove becomes the subject of our sentence, and then is and playing, all these two are actually verbs. In this case, our sentence here does not actually have an object because this is an auxiliary verb and this is actually the main verb in the sentence. Therefore, what I wanted for you to be able to see is how different these two, of course, are actually pronouns. But then there's a difference in the way that they are used. So now I'm going to give you a list of all the objective pronouns that we have. So examples of objective The first one that I'm going to start with is we have the pronoun me, we have us, and then we also have her, we have him, we have them. These pronouns are, for the objective case pronouns, remember we had I. So I is actually replaced now by me in the objective case. We had we. We is actually replaced by us. We had she. She is now replaced with her. We also had he, which is replaced by him. They, which is also replaced by them. The most important thing for you here is not to cram these pronouns, is to understand that when sometimes you look at the pronouns that are used in the objective case, it's like when somebody is reporting an action that has already done, that is not ongoing, or something that is not actually in the active voice, that is when they always try to make use of these pronouns. So just make sure that you know the pronouns, and then you understand what the subject is and what the object is. Probably I could just continue and give more examples of sentences that have pronouns that are actually used in this case. We could have a sentence like, I will invite them, Mrs. Chege taught us. Then we could also have she waited for him. Look at those sentences. Him, us, and them are all pronouns. But one thing that they have in common is the fact that they are actually objective pronouns. Something else that you should always also look out for is the fact that when we were talking about the subjective pronouns, we said that the subjective pronouns always precede the verb. That is, they always come before the verb. Look at this sentence here. She loves him. Here, she is actually a pronoun that is in the subjective case. And then the verb that we have in this sentence is actually loves. And then you notice that she comes before loves. Then look at him. Him here is actually an objective pronoun. But then it comes after the noun. So the objective pronouns behave the opposite of the subjective pronouns. Also look at the sentences that we have here. I will, let me use this pen so that it's clear for you. I will invite them. I is actually a pronoun, but this pronoun in this case is actually in the subjective case. And then will is a verb. This is a modal auxiliary verb to express something that will be done sometime in the future. And then invite is the main verb. Remember, auxiliary verbs are helping verbs. Therefore, invite becomes our main verb, and then we have them, which is a pronoun, but in the objective case, coming after the main verb, which is invite. Let's look at the second sentence. Mrs. Shege taught us. Mrs. Shege becomes our subject. So this is our subject because she's the performer of the action. She's the one that taught you. And then taught here is our main verb, or is otherwise the verb, because we only have one verb in this sentence. And then us is a pronoun, but in this case, it's actually an objective pronoun. Notice that the objective pronoun here is actually coming after the main verb taught. Then we move on to the last sentence. She waited for him. She becomes the subject in this sentence. Waited, subject, and remember, she is actually a pronoun in the subjective case. Then waited is the verb. Then for him, this is like a preposition of phrase. So for here is a preposition. Then him is actually a pronoun, but in this case it's an objective pronoun. I just want you to notice that it comes after the main verb. Therefore, that is something else that you can use to guide you on understanding the difference between the subjective and the objective pronoun. Those, I believe that those examples that I've given of sentences and the examples of objective pronouns that we have, those ones are actually enough. Therefore, you can look for more sentences from the textbooks that you have and practice, and try to, even when you read a passage, try to look at the times when, try to underline the pronouns that you have within your passage or an essay that you read, even the newspaper articles that you read. Sometimes when you get a chance to read a newspaper, underline the pronouns and ask yourself how those pronouns have been used. You do not only need to use your English books to practice. The newspapers, those people that write newspapers have studied the language too, and they have to make sure that they use these parts of speech appropriately. Therefore, you can challenge yourself, have a newspaper, at least one page, go underlining the nouns, try to find out the type of a noun this is, underline the pronouns, first identify the type of a pronoun it is, and then second, go and ask yourself how that pronoun has been used. Is it used as a subject or is it used as an object? I'm just going to do a brief recap of what we've said during this lesson. We started, of course, by defining the objective case pronouns, that they are pronouns that are used as objects in a sentence. Then we say an object, unlike the subject that is the doer of an action, an object is always the receiver of an action. Then, of course, I gave examples of sentences there. Then we tried to replace the nouns in those sentences with pronouns to see which ones are subjectives, which ones are objectives. Then I gave examples of objective pronouns there, and I also gave examples in sentences. Therefore, I hope everything was clear for you, that you have understood, and you've actually tried to take the notes down. In case there's something you didn't understand, you can always go back and listen to the video again, or just ask the question. At this point, I would like to give an assignment for you to do, so that you can try to see whether you've understood what we've talked about. I'm going to write out the assignment for you. That's the assignment. Just very brief questions. Therefore, you've been given 2 options for each sentence. You select the most appropriate. Of course, the questions have not just been pulled from objective pronouns only. I've tried to combine both objective pronouns and subjective pronouns just to test whether you can tell the difference in the usage. So the instructions are: choose the correct, sorry about this, supposed to be, choose the correct pronoun from the options provided to complete the following sentences. Then the first sentence, if you don't mind, would you please take dash home? Then you have he or him. Then number 2, for dash, no other choice seems reasonable. Then you have 2 choices there. You have we and us. Then number 3, between you and dash, this is a tough test. Then we have I and me. Then number 4, there's a time bomb inside dash, just waiting to go off. Then we have the option of she or her. Number 5, we have Miss Kulundu gave my sister and dash a lift to school. Then we have I and me. Let me just correct this S. It looks like a capital S, which is actually wrong. It should just be a small letter S. You remember that you're supposed to obey the rules of punctuation even as you write out these sentences for your assignment, that if the dash comes here in the middle of the sentence, you know what to do. And even as you type out, you know the words that are supposed to start with capital letters. So number 5, Miss Kulundu gave my sister and dash a lift to school. Then the options, we have I and me. Then number 6, this is not for you, it is for dash, he or him. I wish you all the best. Take these exercises seriously, because it is by learning the language that you will be able to be a good communicator. As I've said, you do not only need to rehearse using your textbooks. The ones that most of you, or a section of you, that like reading novels and storybooks. Even as you read those ones, you can just try to look at the usage of some of these things, the usage of nouns, the usage of pronouns, the usage of adverbs, all those parts of speech, because you already know all of them. You can just try to observe how the authors of the newspapers, of articles, of magazines, the ones that you're always reading, just as you read them, have that one in mind. That one will help you to master the language very easily. So you do not need to just stick on these 6 sentences. These ones may not help you. It is good to understand the concept. I wish you all the best. Have a good day. Goodbye until next time.
Thank you for choosing to study with us. For more information, you can call us on 0724 173845.